This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring University of San Diego's offensive coordinator and running backs coach, Tyler Sutton. Coach Sutton highlights his early coaching experience as a graduate assistant, shares advice on how to become an effective coordinator, and explains his philosophy for coaching running backs. But first, a word from our sponsor.
When your parent has cancer and when you're going to bed at night and when you're in your room and you think that the world has left you alone, you are just out in the wilderness in this unknown disease that you can't explain because sometimes the doctors doesn't ever seem like they can explain it, and it just leaves you really confused sometimes. And Camp Custom is important because it makes you understand that not only is it okay to sometimes be confused, but it's okay to have fun, and it's okay to cherish the good times that you have, and understand that even though that there's darkness in our world and that there's cancer in our world, there's other people that are dealing with it that are going to help us to get through it.
After camp, before camp, it's a big difference, a very big difference.
There is no love that is like Camp Custom love, because it is just so unique. There's no judgment, and you can come here and you can be yourself, and you can talk to other people who have been through nearly exactly what you've been through.
When I'm at Camp Custom, I'm the happiest person I've ever been that whole year.
It's so much better than I would have ever expected. Like, I didn't expect to feel like this just like atmosphere of happiness and like positivity, even though we're all like fighting cancer, like in our own way.
Camp Magic is this feeling in your chest that you can't contain. It like has to come out of you.
It's just there. It's in you. All right. It's here. It's in your heart.
It's really honestly not about cancer here. It's about loving each other and bringing each other out.
This is a special place. It's home for me and other kids, so yeah.
Coach Sutton, what's going on, man?
Hey, how are we doing, Mario? Great to be here.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to have you on. I had the opportunity to talk with your receiver coach not too long ago, and thought it would be pretty cool to get the OC on himself and talk a little ball, talk a little career path, and all that good stuff.
Great, yeah, excited to do it. I know I listened to all the Inside the Headsets, and it's fun to listen to guys and their backgrounds, and I know Coach Petty did a good job, and excited to have this opportunity.
No doubt. Well, the beauty of this thing, like you said, you just listen to everybody's backgrounds, and they're all different, and everybody starts at different places. They move quicker than others, slower than others, but we all got the same goal of bettering these young people, and we also have some of our own personal goals to have, watch our career grow and hopefully end up in a place we dream of. Now, your first job was actually at Granite Hills High School there in California after a 4-year playing career at the University of the Redlands. When did you know you wanted to get into coaching, and how did you go pursue that job?
So right after college, I knew I wanted to live in San Diego. I had a kind of a core group of friends that were all kind of making the trek down there and starting their careers in a couple different fields. I ended up after graduating, we had our spring ball in May and early June at Redlands, and did a coaching internship with the staff there and fell in love with it. Helping with film, helping with recruiting, being at practice every day, kind of whatever, coach needed me to do. And just decided that was something I wanted to pursue, and had the opportunity, got a job working for the Grossmont High School District in San Diego. And once I was at one of the schools, just kind of knocked on the head coach's door and put me to work. Started working with the defensive staff since I played defense, and slowly got more responsibility as I had been there.
Absolutely. And so let me ask you for some clarity there. When you took that internship there at San Diego, not San Diego, at the Redlands, that right after you finished playing ball, like going into that internship, did you know you wanted to coach, or was that kind of that exclamation point, like, hey, man, I can see myself doing this?
Coaching's been in my blood. My dad is a long time coach. He didn't coach football. He was a swimming and water polo coach, aquatics guy actually, but it was just kind of in my veins, and that's all I knew. Being a little kid growing up, running around the college aspect and being around football practice, and just from a young age, I knew I loved being around it, loved being part of a team, and really couldn't see myself doing anything else right after college. So it kind of just affirmed that I need to really give this career a great chance before I figure out something else.
Awesome, man. Well, you go there, you work at Granite Hills for a year, and then quickly you get the opportunity to return to your alma mater as the defensive line coach, and then shortly after that, you take over the special teams as well. What was it about the high school and the college game that maybe led you back to that college path, and also how did you knock down that door to get back into the Redlands?
So first of all, Coach Maynard, Mike Maynard at University of Redlands, was a head coach. He just retired after 32 years at Redlands, and over 200 wins, 13 conference championships. He won't talk about that, though. He'll talk about all the lives that he changed along the way.
Good.
And when you get a call, your phone rings and it's him, you're gonna answer it. And he offered me the opportunity to come. Didn't offer me the job. Had to go interview for it. But had to absolutely jump all over that. Getting back into the college ranks was something that I had hoped would happen, and I was still really young in the process, and kind of didn't know where it was going to take me, if I was going to end up being a high school teacher and coach. But wanted to get that experience, and being able to go and be a graduate assistant and earn my master's degree, and work for the defensive staff and work for Coach Maynard was an opportunity that I absolutely cannot pass up. The pedigree, the coaches that have been through there, and now just looking at them and where they're at all over the college ranks, NFL ranks, and high school ranks, it was it's definitely a springboard for what he's done for coaches. The values that he's instilled in us, and the work ethic that it takes to be successful at these levels.
Well, I tell you something actually pretty funny about you saying that is, as I was getting ready for this podcast, I was having like deja vu. I was like, man, I feel like I've talked to like 5 people from the Redlands, and I really have. I literally went back to all my podcast questions, and you're right, that lineage of guys that are in the coaching is unbelievable from that place. So he needs to, if he's still around and still putting guys out, I definitely would love to get him on the podcast. Now, something interesting you said there. Oftentimes, guys, they have a good career at a certain school. Head ball coach gives them a ring, says, "Hey, man, come on, we got a spot for you." Even if it's either immediately or a couple years later. And you made a very distinct remark there. You had to interview for this position. What was that process like, especially with very limited experience, actually coaching on the field?
It was great. It was nerve wracking. You don't want to let your mentor down. Getting in there was fun because knew everybody had been there. Very recently, a couple of minor coaching changes. But really getting after me and making sure that I was ready to put in the work that was necessary to be successful. And because obviously getting started, kind of being the guy at the bottom of the totem pole, you got to really love it, right? There's some long days, and there's some stuff that not a lot of people are willing to do, but seeing the light at the end of the tunnel there, and the firsthand experience that you get coaching a position, and be in charge of running that meeting room, it was invaluable to me. But yeah, I think really, the big part was just want to see if I was going to be ready to handle it, because obviously there's a perception of what it's like as a player, right? And then there's the actual reality of what has to go on behind the scenes to put on a successful product week in, week out, and throughout all those years.
Yeah, and another challenge that comes from that, I'm sure your head coach maybe will recognize, is, you were an all-conference player at University of Redlands from 06 to 09. You finish up in 09, you spend 10 coaching, and you're back there in 2011. So those guys that were on that team, there's some freshmen, sophomores, some redshirt juniors maybe that you were teammates with. How did you, maybe disconnect that player-player relationship and turn that into a player-coach relationship, especially as a special teams coordinator, where you're giving directives out to these young men?
Yeah, so my first year, 2011, back at Redlands, all the rising seniors that year I had played with, they were freshmen when I was a senior. So I don't want to say it was awkward, but we definitely knew each other pretty well,
Right.
and had spent a lot of time with each other. Doing the college scene, and it was exciting. I was nervous about it at first, but brought them all in individually and had one-on-one meetings with them, letting them know that the past was the past, and I'm actually in charge right now, and you're going to have to listen and buy into what we're doing here, and we're going to win a lot of games together. And that ended up going well. I think they respected that more in the long run than me not, just making it be an elephant in the room and never touching on it.
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned that you end up being a special teams coordinator as well. They're at the Redlands. So I'm talking 2 to 3 years in of coaching. You're over, one unit or multiple units, but you have major responsibility in a third of the game as a very, very young coach. Not necessarily asking about that. I would love to know how it's impacted you as a coordinator currently. And I know you began a special teams coordinator role in 2018-19 there at San Diego, and now you're the offensive coordinator. But, how did that early coordinator experience, how you organize, how you communicate, how you, instruct on the field, like how did that scenario affect you in the future?
It was great for me being entrusted with that my second year at Redlands because, obviously Coach thought I was doing a good job and could handle it. And so I wanted to continue to prove him right. And the on-the-job training that you're learning every day, when you're making those decisions, you have no other choice but to be ready every day, right? To make sure you have all your stuff dialed in, to make sure you're organized. And you're talking to the whole team. You're not just talking to your position group anymore. So it forces you to, make sure everybody on the team, create great relationships with offensive players, with defensive players, and entrust the coaches and empower the coaches to help with special teams too. Because just my eyes on 11 guys on the field isn't going to work. You got to kind of build that culture and make it important, so everyone's buying in and all moving in the right direction. And that was invaluable experience again for me. Once I did that, I know Coach Lindsay knew, once that I had special teams experience, and when that opportunity came for me at San Diego, it was an easy transition for me, and it wasn't my first rodeo of doing it.
No doubt, Coach. Well, clearly this resonated, some of those lessons that you had, because you, as special teams coordinator, you were able to have a great amount of success. You had back-to-back special teams player of the year. How did you get the players at San Diego to buy into special teams? I was a special teams coordinator at Davidson College. I won't say a rival, although they've gotten better, so there might be a little bit more of a rivalry there. But a Pioneer Football League team right there with San Diego. I was a special teams coordinator there, and man, sometimes getting the buy-in is tough, and that's our job to get it out of them. But I do know it comes with challenges. How did you make that important to those young men, and how have you used that buy-in to create consistent success?
Well, it all starts from the top down, Mario, right? Coach Lindsay is a huge proponent on culture and playing together and how we win games. So my vision for the special teams unit meshed exactly with what his, was. It was super important. That was the tone that was set on the first day from Coach being in every single special teams meeting, making sure the staff understood that everybody's going to have a role within special teams. And, from our first team meeting that first night of training camp, he would talk for a little bit, and then it would be a special teams meeting, and he'd be in every single meeting, and just showing everybody that, hey, the best players on our team are going to be on special teams, because that's just as important as offense, defense. Field position is absolutely critical, and how you have good teams is you have good players, and it doesn't really matter what scheme you have if you have great players doing it. Right?
That's right. That's right, man. Ultimately, it comes down to the Jimmies and Joes. Now, speaking of Jimmies and Joes, you've had a few of those at San Diego. I got to catch one of them firsthand. I can't recall his name, but the running back position at San Diego has long been kind of one of those positions that when you line up across the field from you guys, that you're going to have some trouble with whoever's lined up back there. All conference players every year, NFL talent for a couple years. That position, me being a former running back and a former running backs coach can attest to this, is very unique. because it is very skill driven, and all positions are. I do recognize that, but it's one of those positions that's so reactionary. You do want to prepare the guys for that, but at the same time, everybody has these different philosophies. I just don't want to get in his way, so I just make sure he knows where to go and knows where's protection. And you got other guys that are very, very, very hands-on in terms of how you cut, how you jump cut, when you do it, how to spin, where to channel the ball in, et cetera, et cetera. What is your philosophy in terms of coaching running backs, and what's your mindset when you start talking to different running backs coaches, and they do have these different philosophies that are just so different?
Yeah, well, for me, it starts with recruiting really good players, right? You can recruit a lot of that talent that you're talking about in terms of the vision and the balance and the explosiveness. Our job as running back coaches is to help kind of channel that explosion and that talent into the scheme that we have. Right. And I mean, we have a complicated scheme at San Diego with what we do. We do a lot of things. And, the most important thing for me getting running backs here and getting them dialed in is, we pride ourselves in our pass protection. And, with all of our different protections that we have, it's kind of fortified on day one that if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't play. It doesn't matter how good you are. So that's a huge thing that we work on day in and day out. That's, a huge percentage of our meetings every day, after the installs, and job as a running back coaches is to, whoever you find out who the talented guys are pretty quick, right? And it's your job to get them to learn what to do so they can be successful and they can play fast. I think philosophy wise, where I'm different than, hearing a lot of, running back coaches talk in clinics and stuff over this last year, is that, getting on guys for what they're doing, but I mean, really got to coach them. They're the ones that are playing the game, right? We got to understand what they are seeing, right? And if they're seeing something different than us, we need to be able to coach that and find a way to meet in the middle and channel that to help them trust what they're seeing and be able to do, like you said, have the reactionary moves dependent on that stuff.
Absolutely.
But philosophically, we're a tough group. Vision, balance, and toughness is stuff that we talk about all the time, and we pride ourselves in that, like I said, in our pass protection.
No doubt. I think you hit the nail on the head, at least in terms of how I approach coaching running backs, and I love that you mentioned seeing what they see, allowing for them to communicate that. That was something I did a ton, was put my backs on the board. When we watched inside, what are you seeing here? Why did you make this cut? Whether it was right or wrong. And you just want to hear that logic, because sometimes I watch kids do the wrong thing. You say, hey, man, I hear you. I get it. I see why you did that, but maybe, this might be the best thing, versus coaching receivers and some of the other positions I coach where it was very black and white. Hey, man, when you get to 10, you got to break inside 89-degree cut. It's very, very, it's not a ton of wiggle room there with the running back. It just is.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, I mean, like you said, watching film after practice or after a game with the guys. Well, hey, we're running outside zone to the right. Well, what's the read? There he is. He's outside leverage. So what are you supposed to do? Right. You should be making a vertical cut, right? Well, what are you seeing here? Well, I saw that, but I felt this. Well, okay, I understand that, right? So constantly trying to find a way to, channel what they're seeing, making sure it's fitting in with what we're trying to do, and making sure that they're comfortable enough in understanding our scheme,
right,
that they can play and be themselves within our scheme.
Yeah, I think you learn a lot from those players when you let them talk in those meetings. You kind of give them some ownership, because first of all, you learn who knows what's going on, who doesn't, because some of those backs run outside zone. Who's the key? They don't. Just the feel, and sometimes the guy can say it, but has still done the wrong thing, and you're like, oh, okay, I see. I say you felt the DN on the backside, crossing your face. That's awesome, man. But Coach, you've had a tremendous career. Been a part of 6 consecutive 9-win seasons, 7 conference championships, 5 FCS playoff appearances with 2 FCS wins. And for anybody that doesn't recognize, PFL, Pioneer Football League, is a non-scholarship league. And so as soon as you hop into playoffs, you're not playing. You're playing scholarship outfits, and so just witnessing a couple of those wins myself, I just know how special that is. I mean, that's a huge thing there. You're having an amazing journey. It's far from over. super excited about continuing to watch you grow. But as I do so, I would love for you to share your social media accounts so other coaches can keep up with your journey, ask questions if they have anything like that, and just have some basic conversation with you. So if you don't mind sharing your Twitter account, that'd be great.
Yeah, so my Twitter is at Coach Sutton, SUTTON USD at the end. And would love to link up, and feel free to reach out and hit me up, and we can talk running back play or just link up and build another connection. That's what this this profession's all about, is kind of growing together and making everybody better. So happy to do that.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, certainly look forward to hopefully connecting and networking with you here in January at the annual convention, and wishing you guys the best of luck and hopefully a full season, all healthy and all that good stuff. All right.
I appreciate it, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no doubt, Coach. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.